Part 33, Who the Fuck Did I Marry? June 17th, 2021. So, you guys have been on this ride. You now know exactly what information I did have. The morning of June 17th, which was his birthday, he was in the bed as usual. Powerade bottles all over the place because I wasn't in the mood to clean. And so I went in his room. He was awake. He was watching YouTube on his cell phone. He watched a lot of YouTube, watching these two guys that always were fixing Jeeps on YouTube. And if I saw them, I would know exactly who they are, but I can't remember their name. It's a popular show on YouTube. Anyway, so I go in there and I just calmly sit on the edge of the bed. And I was like, can we talk? And he was like, yeah, what's up? I said to him, I said, Legion. Obviously, I called him his name. Legion. I said, I'm going to ask you something. I just want you to be honest with me. So he starts, I can already see in his eyes, he's about to get defensive. And I was like, calm. Because this is the tone I had. Calm. I said, you never went to San Diego State, did you? He rolls his eyes and he's like, I said, calm down. Watch your tone. I said, you never went to San Diego State. I said, you never lived in California, did you? And he said, of course I lived in California. He's like, I fucking showed you the house I had in California. He said, and I told you about San Diego State. I was a private citizen. My dad paid for me to be a private citizen. And I said, okay. I said, I called San Diego State. And he looked at me. His eyes were like empty. Like he wasn't shocked. He wasn't like, oh my God. He was just more like, okay. I said, they have no record of you. I said, they have no record because you never went. You never been to California. So at this point, I'm very calm. And I'm just stating, I said, you never been to California. I said, I bet you've only lived in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. At this point, now there's a little emotion behind the eyes. And I said, I don't think that this is going to work. And he said, what, the marriage? He was like, so what you saying? You don't want to be married to me anymore? And I said, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I said, we need to go our separate ways. We tried, but we need to go our separate ways. The way that I am talking to you all is exactly how I was talking to him. And so he was like, that's not what marriage is. Marriage is, you have to fight for what you want. I said, I don't want this. And I don't want to fight for it. I said, I don't want you and I don't want this. And so he was like, I'm not giving up on the two of us. I said, you don't have a choice. I said, I think that you should call your brother or your sister now. And I think that you need to pack a bag. And I think you need to get the fuck out my house. And he was like, I don't really have time for this. I don't feel well. I said, I don't care. You need to get out of my house. Again, the way I know y'all are going to be like, she's so dramatic. And I am actually a very dramatic person. But the way that I'm talking to you guys on this video is exactly how I was talking to him in the beginning of how this started. So I said, you need to call your brother or call your sister because she's in Douglasville. And you need to go stay there. You need to get out this house today. Basically what happened was at first he refused. He wasn't moving fast enough for me. And so he called his aunt. And his aunt was on speakerphone. Let me preface that. She was on speakerphone. And so she was like, what's going on? And he was like, My wife don't want me no more. She claimed that I be lying to her. I ain't never lied to her. When I heard this, what's the analogy I can give y'all? When I heard him say to his aunt, I ain't never lied to her before, something in me snapped. The best analogy I can give you, do y'all remember that movie Carrie? When she was at the prom and everyone was laughing at her. The blood had fallen down on her. And there was a moment where her eyes just went wild. And you knew something was about to happen. You just didn't know what. But y'all had pushed her too far. When he said to his aunt, I ain't never lied to her, I snapped. The calmness left. The amount of rage that was in me. I could have fought every member of the Kansas City Chiefs and beat every last one of their asses. I could have fought every member on the Atlanta Falcons and beat every last one of their asses. I'm not a violent person, but I was there. That statement, I ain't never lied to her, took me there. I went off. I went off. I went off so bad that first of all, every part of me was shaking. I called my mom. My mom was on speakerphone, and she's in Arkansas. My mom's a praying woman. I was cussing like a sailor. My mom finally said, put him on the phone. So I gave him the phone, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking around the room. Is the scene that I remember is the Angela Bassett scene in Waiting to Exhale, when her eyes are darting around the room right before she grabs everything to put it in the car to set it on fire. I was more so looking at what weapons were in the room. The lamp, the TV, the dresser. I was looking more, while she was talking to him, my eyes were darting around the room, because if he did not get his ass up and get his shit and get up out of my house, it was going to be bad. If I have never in my life been on TikTok and said thank you, had it not been for the blood, y'all, I know this is going to sound dramatic. I know this is going to sound like, girl, you so funny. You don't understand. Had it not been for the Lord on my side, had it not been for the fact that I know I got a praying mother, I know I had a praying aunt, I know I've had a praying grandmother in heaven, because I'm telling you, I clearly saw what was getting ready to happen had he not gotten up, got his shit, and got out of my house. So I'm trying to calmly say this because I'm trying to calmly tell this story because the rage had taken over me. The pure, unadulterated rage that I felt when he said to his aunt, I ain't never lied to her, after I had discovered only 2% of the lies at that point. Just 2%. So it was enough for me to be like, you need to get your stuff and go. So my mother gets on the phone and she says to him, Legion, she called him by name. She said, I am not there to control my daughter. She said, in the name of Jesus, get your stuff and get out that house, because I think she might kill you. Get out of the house. She's on my phone. His aunt is on his phone. His aunt said, nephew, come home. Home for her was Philly. She said, I'll send you money. Come home. Leave that house right now, she said, because I think that woman is about to kill you. Let's just go to part 34. Let's all just take a deep breath. Part 34. Who the fuck did I marry? So the aunt told him, I'll send you money. Come home. I'm yelling in the background, by the way. I'm not standing there calmly. I'm yelling. I said, oh, he got money. Yeah, you got money. You got money in that offshore account, right? You got money in that Chase account. You got money to drive. So do what you got to do. I told him, and I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff I said because my mom might see this TikTok. But I did tell him, I was like, if you don't get out of this house, you going actually what I said was, you have two options. You either going to leave this house voluntarily, or you're going to leave this house involuntarily. And he tried to get a little nuck if you buck. He tried. And that's when because he was still on the bed, still laying in the bed. And he was just like, you ain't gonna do shit. Like, don't talk to me like you done lost your fucking mind. Da, da, da. And I calmly got close to him. I got like this close. And I literally said, I will beat you like the bitch you are. I dare you to try me. I said, I will literally beat you like the male bitch you are. And so when I said that, his eyes were like, I said, I'm not even playing. Because at this point, I'm rocking like back and forth. Y'all, again, I'm not some hardened type chick. I'm not. I want the soft lifestyle. But I have been pushed to the point. So I'm rocking, I'm walking back, I'm pacing. So finally, his aunt was able to get through to him. I had called my aunt, my mother, my aunt. I had called the pastor. I had called all these people because I did know that I was in a very dangerous place. Not because I'm scared of him. At this point, I was scared of me. I don't know if this has ever happened to someone where you know your own, you know yourself. You know that you got a line. I was over that line. So I had enough wherewithal to be like, okay, you probably gonna go to jail today. You probably gonna go to jail. You probably ain't gonna have that job in the morning. Like I was there. And again, this is not to sound bragging at all. This was a woman who I could not believe that even with the attempt of me trying to give him one last opportunity to tell me the truth, he still lied in my face. I was at my edge. So I yanked the covers back, and I told him, I was like, get up, get the fuck out of my house. Again, I'm saying it calmly on here. It was nothing calm in the house when this happened. So I'm throwing stuff up against the wall. I remember I looked at the lamp. He looked at me looking at the lamp. And I think something in him realized, okay, yeah, I'm in pain, but if I don't get up, she's going to do something with that lamp. So he does get up. He is still on the phone with the aunt because the aunt was pretty much like, keep me on the phone. She did not want him to hang up. He throws some stuff together. Again, keep in mind, he has all his stuff in the house. So he basically packed like 2 bags worth of clothes. And he's limping around, and I'm standing in the hallway watching him like a probation officer. So he's limping around, and I'm looking at the condition of the bedroom. This is when I noticed Legion had been semi-bedridden. Remember, I told y'all that because the knee and other stuff. I look at these bottles of Powerade because he had been drinking Powerade so much at this point. He was not getting up to go to the bathroom. He was drinking the Powerade and then using the empty bottles to pee in. So there was about 6 bottles around the bed. And I was like, what is this? Because again, I hadn't really been going in that room. I was busy being CIA, FBI, and Homeland Security for the past 2 weeks. So I was like, what is this? He was like, I'm going to throw it out. He grabbed a trash bag, put the bottles in there. And I said, what are in those bottles? I said, tell me And I think I started like twitching. Like, tell me, that is not piss in those bottles. He was like, I couldn't make it to the bathroom. I was in too much pain. So at this point, I'm even more like, yeah, get the fuck out. Get out. Um, get out of my house. So I helped him. While he was packing his bags, I went downstairs. I took the house key off of his keys. I went back upstairs. He had his 2 bags. I grabbed the 2 bags. Yes, I did. I grabbed the 2 bags. I had opened up the garage. I had already popped the trunk for his car and threw the bags in the car. I did that because I was like, you getting out of this house. You getting out of this house today. You can't come back. You can't come back ever. So it took him about 2 hours from the time of I will beat you like the bitch you are for him to actually leave the house. Again, I'm calm telling y'all this story. It was not calm in the house. So he eventually puts on some sweatpants. Now I can really see how much weight he has lost. But he puts on some sweatpants. He puts on a shirt. He's limping down. He's like, you really gonna kick me out on my birthday? I just looked at him. Opened the door. He went through the garage, got into his car, called, his aunt was still on the phone, and she was like, I'm gonna send you some money. And that's the part I was like, clearly he has the money. Like, you ain't got to send him money. He doesn't even have to go to Philly. He can just go get a hotel for now. I don't care what he does. He just got to leave his house. So he ends up getting in the car, driving off. My mom calls and she's just like, is he still there? I said no. I had not told her what all he had lied about. Even in the midst of me being angry and me going off, I never told him that I spoke to the ex-wife. I never told him I knew he was lying about the stepdaughter, because then he would have asked how, what makes you say that? So I did keep my word. I never told him I spoke to her. So he eventually left. I text a friend of mine. I text my landlord. I said, I have an emergency. I need to know if it is okay to get the locks changed. Landlord was like, that's fine. My landlord was super cool. Shout out to Mr. Patel. I went to Home Depot, bought brand new locks, text a friend of mine, asked him, when you get off work, can you please come by my house? I need the locks changed today. So he was like, oh, okay, what's going on? I said, I'll explain it later. So to give you a timeline of June 17th, when I asked him about San Diego State and I told him that I know you've never even been to California, that was about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. By the time he left the house, it was maybe going on noon, 1 o'clock. So this happened pretty quickly. If you're wondering, why did you even ask him? I already knew that I wanted out. I knew that. But for some reason, a part of me was like, let's just see if he'll be honest just one last time. And he wasn't. And it sent me into a rage. And then he lied to his aunt saying, I ain't never lied to her. And that sent me over the edge. So by 1 o'clock, by 1:30, he was gone. By 2:30, I had done a pretty good job of cleaning up the bedroom. He had thrown away the Powerade bottles. So I didn't have to touch those. I stripped the sheets. Anything that he touched in that bedroom, I stripped the sheets, threw them in a trash bag, threw them out in the trash can. And so most of this was adrenaline. Adrenaline was pushed because I hate packing. I hate doing all that stuff. I went on Amazon. I ordered oversized, large tote bags because I was packing up all his shit. Part 35. Who the fuck did I marry? So I packed up all his stuff. Okay. The reason why I packed up all his stuff is because, so I had a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome. One room was the guest room. Obviously, there was a master bedroom. And then we had a TV room that he had made like his Philadelphia Eagles man cave. I was going to put everything that belonged to him, pack it up, and put it in the TV room, because the plan should have been that he's going to come back and get all his stuff. Okay, so that's why I did it. And honestly, it just felt good to pack up his stuff and go through it freely, because when he packed in a hurry, he left obviously really important things. He left all his Invicta watches. He left all his WWE championship belts. And if you know anything about WWE championship belts, you know those things are expensive. He left all his Jordans. He left suits. He left Cole Haan shoes. He left all that because it was such a hurry for him to leave. So all that was still in my house. So around 2:30, I think I wasn't even at a place where I could start crying. I was just too angry, still shaking, packing everything up. One of the things that he left is a photo album with all the pictures of his mom and dad and his siblings growing up. Now, I had the thought of I was going to have a burn party. And I was going to put it on Facebook Live. I was going to burn it with my friends and drink and dance and play music. But it's his deceased parents. I do have a heart. So I put that somewhere special, meaning I put it up in the closet. He had told me that he was going to come back and get his stuff. And so I just did not, I didn't throw anything out unless it was like something I knew was trash. Other than that, I put everything up and kept it, in the TV room. So that's June 17th. Also on June 17th, I had already ordered his birthday cake. I had ordered the birthday cake like the end of May because it was like a special birthday cake. So I also had to go get the birthday cake from the bakery in East Point. And I took it to my family's house and we ate it. Yes, I had left the house, went to my family's house, filled them in, my aunt, my little cousin, and my grandfather, because my mom was in Arkansas. So went over to their house, filled them in on what was going on. They could not believe it. Although my grandfather then told me, he said, he ain't look like he was a football player. He was like, I ain't want to say nothing, but he ain't look like he was a football player. Gotta love grandparents. So we ate his birthday cake. Went back home. The friend that I had called came, changed all the locks. I changed the security codes. Effectively, he would not have been able to get in that house. So that is what happened on June 17th. So now we can fast forward. He would text me and he would call me that he got to Philly. Apparently he left Georgia and immediately went to Philly. So he immediately went to Philly, and he did text me and said that he made it to Philly and he was staying at his aunt's house. I know that this is a short part. That's okay, because what we're doing now is I went through how we met. I went through how we dated. I went through how we got married. Now I'm taking you all to June 17th. The week after June 17th, he's in Philly. He still would call me. He still would text me. The conversations we were having the week after June 17th, so this would be June 18th up to the 24th. The conversations we are having had to do with divorce. So who's going to file? And he was like, well, I don't want a divorce, so I'm going to fight you on it. Are you? Really? Are you going to fight me on the divorce? I didn't know anything about filing for a divorce. But I refused to stay in a place of ignorance. So I went online. There's a website that you can go to where you pay like a $200, $239 fee. And you fill out basic information and you choose your state. You choose your state and they will not process, but they will make all your documents. All you got to do is print it out and take it to the court. And it is step-by-step directions. We didn't have any property with each other. We didn't have any kids with each other. So by the state of Georgia's standards, this should be an uncontested divorce. So the conversation that last week, the week of June 18th to the 24th, was about divorce. What stuff do you want to keep? Well, I'm going to come and get all my stuff. I just don't understand why you couldn't talk to me about it. I said, there's no room for talking because you've been lying to me since day one. But even still, keep in mind, as of June 17th, June 18th, June 19th, I did not know what I know now. So the lies were really only like 5% of the whole story. So June 24th or 25th is when I had printed my documents. And I'm laughing because at this point in time, I've read y'all's comments about how that man will print out stuff. I know. But I used the website, typed all my stuff in, got my documents, and then I went. I took a day off from the job because I was getting ready to transition into the new job. So I left work early, went to the courthouse, and filed for divorce. I filed. I paid. And then I already had the documents where he would have needed to sign so that it could then be entered into for a divorce settlement agreement. So going into part 36 or 35, I know there's so many parts. Going into the next part is where I can tell you guys what happened with him, because he drove to Philly and he was in Philly for about a week, maybe 3 to 4 days. Then I get a message on Facebook Messenger from a woman claiming to be his cousin. Lord Jesus. So the cousin tells me, actually I can tell y'all. So the cousin tells me that he's there. He's telling the family that I kicked him out. He's telling the family that I kicked him out after he walked in on me having an affair. That I stole his money and I then kicked him out. And the man I was having an affair with, he said, was a law enforcement officer who used his duty weapon to threaten him to get out the house. This is what he told his family. And the cousin was reaching out to me. She found me through a search on Facebook and was reaching out to me because she's like, we know he lies. So I'm just trying to figure out is this true? Because he's up here asking us for money, asking to stay on our couches. Like, what's going on? Then she explained to me, we didn't even know he got married. So this is the first time we're hearing about you. What do you mean you didn't know he got married? He talks to his brother every day. She said, who told you that? I said, I've heard him talk to his brother every day. All his brothers. She said, all his brothers? How many brothers do you think he has? I said, he has 4 brothers. I named them. She said, he has 2 brothers. She said, he has the twin and he has the older brother. I said, twin? Who is the twin? Welcome to the next part where we discover the real family tree. Part 36, who the fuck did I marry? The family tree. Please fasten your seatbelts and put the tray tables in the upright position. Let's go. All right. The cousin, I'm not going to name her. The cousin had reached out to me on Facebook, asked me to please give her a call. So this conversation was on the phone. Yes, I was actually speaking to her. She informs me again about the whole he's up there. He's telling everyone that he walked in on me cheating on him. It was with a law enforcement officer and that the law enforcement officer used his duty weapon to threaten him to get him out of the house. The reason why I'm particularly mentioning the fact that he said it was law enforcement is because he was trying to get a family member, like one of his cousins, to call the agency of the law enforcement officer and file a complaint, which in hopes would then start an internal affairs investigation. Yeah. So, female cousin's on the phone with me. She's telling me everything that he is telling them. She's like, look, we know he a liar. We don't fuck with him. He's been a liar since a kid, but he's also family. She said, we didn't know at all who you are. So I thought that that was interesting because I was like, you didn't know who I was, but his brother knew who I was. And so, again, that's when I said to her that I was like, I've talked, he's talked to his brother every day. So why wouldn't the brother tell y'all that he had gotten married? And so she said, what brother? And so I told her the brother's name. And she said, he told you that? I said, he was having the phone calls in front of me. So at this point, what the cousin said was, she was like, okay, I'm going to confirm that with him. She was like, he lives up the street, so I'm going to just confirm that with him. She was like, because I'm pretty sure that they have been beefing for a while. I was like, I can only tell you what I saw, what I heard. That's all I can say. So then when she asked me about, well, how many brothers do you think he has? And I said, he has 4 brothers. Again, I listed all of them. This woman was like, he has 2 brothers. She said he has the twin, and he has the older brother, the one that he was on the phone with every morning, blah, 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 blah. I said, twin? Who's the twin? So this is where she explained to me. She said the parents, mom and dad, had the older brother. The older brother is about 5 or 6 years older than Legion. Legion and the younger brother, who lives in Nashville, they are twins. So when he kept saying the younger brother, my younger brother by 2 years, it's his older brother by 20 minutes. They are twins. I have seen a picture of this brother. Yes, they do very much look alike, but I didn't know they were twins. It doesn't even matter. I didn't know they were twins. But definitely they had the same mom and dad. So she was like, no, that he's older than Legion by 20 minutes. They're twins. She said, so the parents had 3 boys. Brother in Philly, the older brother, and the twins. She was like, who the hell are these sisters that you're talking about? So I tell her, I was like, Shantae and Kim. She said, I don't know who Shantae is. She said, Kim is my daughter. Kim is not his sister. Kim is my daughter. And she said, that's his cousin. She was like, and they haven't spoken in about 20 years. So, no, that's not his sister. He does not have any sisters. And I said, well, then what about the other 2 brothers? She was like, what other 2 brothers? I said, the brothers from his dad. She was like, you mean to tell me this man is going around telling people, I know somebody's going to quote Nicki Minaj, lying on your dead mama, but try not to. She says, you mean to tell me this man is walking around lying on his dad, saying that his dad had kids outside of his mom? And I kind of stuttered like, yeah. She was like, he does not. She said, I have no idea who those 2 men are. She said, those are not his brothers. But if y'all remember, I've met those 2. And he introduced them as, man, this is my brother John. This is my brother Matt, type thing. And so they both were like, oh, my sister, it's good to meet you. It's good to meet you. Remember that, because obviously I do eventually talk to those 2 men again. So she says to me, the family tree is mom and dad, the 3 sons. She was like, there are no sisters. She said, I don't have a clue who Shantae is. She said, Kim is my daughter, so that's just their cousin. But again, they ain't spoken 20 years. I said, okay, and then there was the grandmother. She said, yeah, she named the grandmother. She was like, yeah, she died in like 2008. I said, yeah, he told me that she died. in 2020. And that, all of you were coming down for the memorial service. And she's just like, she died in 2008. I said, then there was the uncle who also died from COVID. She was like, which uncle is that? I told her the name. She said, he's been dead since like, shit, 2010. I said, okay, what about the cousin nicknamed Junebug? Everybody got a cut. If you're not African American, we all know a Junebug somewhere. And she just was like, oh yeah, cousin Junebug. She was like, man, that's crazy what happened to him. And I was like, what do you mean what happened to him? Because I know he has talked to his cousin Junebug on the phone like a few months prior. He was like, and so she said to me, she said, yeah, he had passed away in like 2016. So this is now 3 people that she's naming that I recall him having either a story about or a phone call with, and she's telling me that they are all passed away. So this is when the conversation kind of changes, and she's like, you know what? She said, let me speak to the older brother because he probably wants to talk to you. She was like, you probably should talk to him, and a lot of your questions will get answered. She was like, this dude's been lying ever since he was a kid. She was like, she said, literally, we don't fuck with him. I remember her saying that verbatim. She was so adamant. She was like, and when he showed up here out the blue, talking about how his wife cheated on him with a law enforcement officer, and how the guy took his gun out and threatened him to leave the house. She was like, we knew something was up. She was like, that's why I had to find out who you were and reach out to you and find out the truth. I said, there was no other guy. There was no law enforcement officer. And she was like, yeah, because he was telling us where the dude worked and how we should go ahead and help him file a complaint so that this dude could lose his job. I said, there is no other person. I said, I kicked him out. That was me, all by myself. No gun, just my fist. And so she said, he's telling us that he had gotten married, and then she was like, apparently y'all had a baby. So she was like, so you got a kid with him? So I had to explain to her. I said, no. I said I had a miscarriage back in June of 2020, and I had to have surgery in July. So she was just like, girl. So she started really being encouraging and was saying, you dodged a bullet, honey. She was like, I don't wish this. She's like, I know he my family, but I don't wish him on no woman. So we've have each other's numbers. She was like, if you need anything, please feel free to call me. She was like, I've had my own issues with him. I've had my own issues in life. But she was like, get your divorce and be done with him. Then she said, I'm going to put you in contact with the older brother. Next part is me finally talking to the older brother that he had been talking to every morning. Part 37, who the fuck did I marry? So at this point in time, I have filed for divorce. I paid for the filing fee. I'm representing myself pro se, and it should be an uncontested divorce. During this time, Legion had driven to Philly, lied to his family, and said I had cheated on him, that he caught me, and that the guy I cheated on him with was a law enforcement officer who used his gun to threaten him to get out the house. None of that was true. At some point while he was in Philly, he ran out of options in terms of where he could stay. Family members did not want him to stay with them. Apparently, a lot of bridges were burned, according to the female cousin I had talked to on the phone. So he left Philly and went to Augusta. Yes, what you were hearing is correct. He drove from Georgia to Philly, stayed in Philly for about 3-4 days, left Philly, drove back to Georgia, went to Augusta. Keep in mind, if you have lost your notes at this point, He was raised in Philly and did high school in Augusta before he went to California. So he has family in Augusta. So at this point, he's on his way to Augusta to stay with a new set of people. The reason why this is important is because what I have is a divorce settlement agreement. That divorce settlement agreement has to be signed by the two of us, where we are basically telling the court, look, this is what he's keeping, this is what I'm keeping. I need his signature. Let me repeat that. I need his signature because I wanted a very quick and painless divorce, as much as it could be. So by this time, this is now around June 25th. So around June 25th, he's now in Augusta. He had left the house June 17th. So between June 17th and June 24th is the trip to Philly, then leaving Philly, coming to Augusta. My aunt and my little cousin get in the car with me and I drive to Augusta with a rag on my head, some sweatpants, and a tank top because it's July, so it's hot. But we ride to Augusta. I had spoken to him. I had said, I just need you to sign this piece of paper. And he was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. No. We're going to get to it as quickly as possible. So if that means I got to drive to Augusta tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I'm going to do that because I need that signature. I ain't tell him this. This was my attitude. Sure enough, went ahead, drove down there. I met him at the UPS store in Augusta. It's in the same Kroger shopping center. They had a notary there because I needed the papers to be notarized. So he pulls up. It's only been a week since I last saw him. It has been months since my aunt saw him. Okay? She had no idea of the condition that he was in. Again, I'm telling y'all, when I met him, when he met my family, he was like a size 3X. In just a short span of time for a week, he easily could have been in an extra large, maybe even a large, but was wearing 3X clothes. So he has told me this whole time, he didn't know I had spoken to his family. Okay, probably need to put that in there. He did not know I had spoken to his cousin. So he was telling me that he had a place to stay. He was staying with some family members, and everything was cool. He told me he was going back to Augusta because he had a job. That's what he told me. The family member, the cousin, told me, oh no, it's not that he had a job. We kicked his ass out because he's still lying. And we don't want anything to do with him. So when I saw him get out the car, I immediately knew, you probably have not washed in 3 days. I'm not overreacting. His nails had not been cut, so his nails were a bit long. He smelled like the Chattahoochee dump on a hot summer Georgia day. He stunk so bad. And for a moment, I did not recognize the man that I was legally married to. I did not recognize him. He almost looked, what's the word? Emaciated? I may be mispronouncing it, but the way someone looks when they have lost so much weight and it's almost like your skin and bones. He looked homeless. He smelled homeless. And my heart just kind of broke. It kind of did. I'll be honest, it kind of broke. It did not break enough for me to not get that signature, though. So when he walked into the UPS store, you clearly could see that some of the people were like, let me get away from him. Me, I just was like, okay, so I just need you to sign right here, and I just need you to sign right there. Okay, and then a woman named Lauren came over and notarized the papers, and then we were done because he signed the divorce agreement. He didn't even read it. Reason why I'm pointing that out is because he didn't read the part where what's left in the house now belongs to me. Where he took technically what he was going to take. Everything else in that home belongs to me. Remember, I told y'all he had left all his Invicta watches. He had left all his WWE championship belts, his Jordans, a lot of his clothes, his Cole Haans. He had left all that stuff. He never even read the divorce agreement. So he signed it. I signed it. Lauren notarized it. We leave the store and I said, "Have you eaten?" And he was like, "Yeah, I ate. It's just, my knee." So again, he's talking about the knee, but if you saw him, you would know there's way more to it than the knee. So I said to him, "Look, since you met me here, let me give you some money so you can get you some chicken nuggets." Yeah, that's what I said. You can get you some chicken nuggets. So I believe I gave him like $5 or $6. Go get you some chicken. I think I Zelled it to him, actually. Just go get you some food. Then because where he parked was not far. It was like, okay, I'm parked here. He's parked in front of me in the other row. So there's that aisle that you can drive down. So I walked him to the car. And I saw the condition of the inside of the car. And that's when I knew he's been living in his car. He's been living in his car. So clearly, I no longer had a question of, so where's this offshore account? Where's the U.S. bank savings account? Where's the checking account? Didn't have that question anymore. Because if you had money, you wouldn't be living in your car. You would not be in the same clothes that you were in when you left my house on June 17th. And this is now June 25th. So he was like, "I'm going to be all right. I'm about to start a new job. I'm going to be cool. I got a family member I can stay with. Everything's going to be okay." All right. I said, "I will let you know when the divorce is granted." I said, "I will send you a copy of the divorce decree." And he was like, "Okay." He said, "Well, how long you think that's going to take?" I said, "I'm not sure." I thought I had to wait 30 days before I could file the divorce agreement settlement form. And then the judge would grant it in 30 days. So basically, this is like June 25th. I'm looking at the end of August that it would take for the divorce to be granted, assuming there were no hiccups, assuming he didn't decide he was going to pull a fast one. So I told him, I was like, I'm going to file this, and then once we get the divorce decree, I'll send you a copy. He said, okay. He got in his car. I got in my car. I drove all the way back home, and he went to wherever he went. Next part is the next series of lies that I was faced with. All right, part 38 of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? I'm going to call this housekeeping and missing pieces. So, housekeeping. First and foremost, as much as I know you all have enjoyed this series, and some of you have told me how entertaining you have found it, the story will be done this weekend. So, in other words, I don't care how many parts I gotta film, it will be done this weekend. We're not going to drag it into the new week. So I just want to let everyone know that. So please be sure to tell your sisters, your mamas, your aunties, your cousins, your best friends, hey y'all, go ahead and watch all the parts, because she's saying she's wrapping it up this weekend. But I'll leave the playlist up, so don't worry. Also, let's see. I'm sorry for the people who were like, I keep talking really slow. I didn't know that I was, and they're like, you're just long-winded. I'm very detailed. So that's probably what you're feeling, is that I'm detailed and I'm trying to get everything out, again, in a responsible manner. So, you all have asked me if I will do a live. Yes, I will. I don't have any issue doing a live. I feel like if you're going to put the story out there, you know you're going to get questions. So if you stand on business and you stand on what you said, do the live. So yes, I will do a live, and I will let you all know when I'm gonna do a live, so it won't just be some random shit. I will actually do a live and let everyone know, so that way if you have questions, bring them. The issue with doing a live is that I need moderators. So because I just anticipate a lot of people have questions and I'm just one person, and I don't want to be accused of she's ignoring my question, which means there's holes in her story. Y'all, we all know how TikTok is. So, but I will absolutely do a live. That's the housekeeping. Missing pieces. So when I said before that it's important to me that I'm responsible in how I tell this story, meaning I'm clear and I go in detail, I realized that I left out some missing parts. And it was brought to my attention by a number of you. Thank you, because I'm all for accountability. I did not go into how my ex-husband, Legion, left the condiment company and then went to Apple. I also did not go into detail on when my mom came to visit. Both of those were in the month of April. I was going to go into detail a little bit more on the Apple situation because, as you probably have figured out, of course something came out later on. But nevertheless, in terms of April of 2021, my mom came for a visit. She lived in Arkansas. She came to visit us. She came to visit us after we had that whole sexting on Facebook incident and just after we had started marital counseling. There were no fireworks during her visit. Nothing was weird. I did talk about how you know, my family has always been there, and if you spoke with my mom, she would tell you she didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but there was something in her spirit that just didn't sit right. She didn't talk to me about it at the time. She did not raise her concerns. She simply, when she came to visit, we welcomed her with open arms. Legion was excited to meet her. She was excited to meet him. We took my mom out to eat. It was a typical, very quiet, non-active visit. I didn't know what my mother thought until later on. So she didn't share with me during the visit, something don't seem right. She and I sat in the guest room talking. I never told her anything that was going on. Number one, because again, it goes back to that mindset of what happens in my marriage needs to stay in my marriage. And I talk about how I didn't think looking back, it was not a good idea that I told my aunt what had happened. My aunt is not the type that's going to tell my mother. In other words, if you confide in her, she keeps it between you and her. So my mom never knew that there were any issues. And so there was nothing for her to be on mama bear mode. Had she known, this would have been a very different trip, but she didn't know. So she did come to visit. Everything went fine. He and I put on a united front. Oh, we're so happy. We're so, in love. And yes, behind the scenes was a whole different story. He talked to her about how he was looking to buy a house and how he told her how work was going, how his job, how his job was going, bragging as usual, which I did tell my mom, look, he's going to talk about himself and money a lot. So, just change the subject. If he brings up a house, change the subject. That was my instructions to her, because I was like, I don't even want to get into the whole house situation. So other than that, uneventful. Now, once my mom left, this is still in April, everything was fine with him at the condiment company. As far as I knew, everything was fine. What ended up happening is he randomly came home one day and starts complaining about changes that are going on at the company. When he started complaining about those changes, it was things like, keep in mind, he is not VP of the company. He was VP of, I keep getting it wrong, but I think it was VP of production is what the memo says. So he was not the second in command for the company. he was upset that he was being blamed for production stats, that the production was down. He was upset that his plant manager apparently had resigned. He was upset that some of the policy changes that were coming into play that would affect his plant. These are the things that he was coming home and complaining about. Literally, he would complain. He started complaining Monday. By Friday, he said, you know what, if they continue doing this, then I just need to find another job. He was like, I think I'm gonna call my homeboy that I work with at Apple, and I'm gonna see, you know, what they have available. Yes, there were red flags going up. Of course there were. At this point, we're not even dealing with United Nations of red flags. We are dealing with the Olympics. We are dealing with the parade of all nations. Everybody got a red flag. So when he said that, I was kind of like, okay, because I had become numb to all the antics that he did. I was numb to it. So he literally said, I think I'm gonna call my homeboy and I'm gonna see what's at Apple. My response to him was, well, what about your salary? Would you take a pay cut? And he was like, no, I'm not gonna take a pay cut. Like, I wouldn't leave unless it's gonna be the same amount or more money. Y'all, the next week, last week of April, I'm at work, minding my own business. He calls me and tells me, I've decided to resign. You what? I've decided to resign. Don't worry. Don't get all crazy. I had talked to my homeboy. There is a position at Apple, and I'm on my way there now to go and meet him so that I can get some information on the position. We're married, y'all. We're married. So what I said to him was, well, will you get all this in writing? His words to me were, of course I'm gonna get it in writing. I'm not stupid. You know what? I don't even want to talk to you no more. Click. That's the end of April. So that is how I was introduced to this Apple job. Again, if you stick with this series, you will find out exactly what happened. But that's how I was introduced to the Apple job. It literally was in a span of within 2 weeks. And he resigned from the condiment company and immediately said, I'm going to move over to Apple. Just wanted to clarify that. So we will continue on. Part 39, who the fuck did I marry? Everything you're going to hear probably in this part and the next part, all of this happens in the month of July 2021. Divorce has been filed. It was filed the end of June. I got his signature on the divorce settlement agreement. I thought that I had to wait 30 days before I could actually file that with the court. And so this is kind of in the limbo period because I'm still within those 30 days. So he left a book bag at the house. Book bag that had all kind of paperwork in there. Inside the book bag, this is the paperwork that I found. Number one, I found a packet from the condiment company where it showed his 401k contributions. It also stated in there that he had been terminated. So he was terminated from the condiment company according to the paperwork in the packet that I saw in the book bag that he left at my house. Also in the book bag were paycheck stubs from a previous job where he worked at a cemetery. The same cemetery that he took me to show me where his grandmother and grandfather were buried. So let's go ahead. I'll do this video and say this is what he told me. This is what I confirmed. He told me his grandmother and grandfather were buried there. He showed me a headstone with a family name on it. If you go back in previous parts, I talk about it. The truth is they are not buried there. He is of no relation to the people who are buried at that particular gravesite. Only reason why he knew about it is because he had worked there. Also in the book bag, it was a copy of a driver's license that he had The address on the driver's license, now this I still don't have an answer to, but the address on the driver's license was the same address as the cemetery, because I looked it up on Google. Also in the book bag was paperwork from another construction company job, meaning it was paycheck stubs from another construction company here in Atlanta that he had worked for. It did not have dates on it, so I don't know when he worked for the construction company. Also in the book bag paperwork was unemployment paperwork. So it looked like he had been receiving unemployment just before I met him. I met him in March. It looked like he had been receiving unemployment January and February. So once again, let's confirm. He did not work for the condiment company for 6 to 7 years. Also in there were scraps of paper from a temp agency where it was information on the job that he had been placed at. Where was that job? The condiment company. He would be a forklift / loader is what it said. So I interpret that to mean he can drive a forklift, but he would have been loading up the 18-wheelers for them to go out to their deliveries. Also in this book bag was paperwork from Clayton County courts, I believe, for a weekend, what is it called? A weekender jail. It was like a weekender jail receipt. So I had to do some research. So apparently what that means is that there is an option where if you have a job, let's say you were sentenced to 60 days in jail, but you have a full-time job. Apparently the court can say, okay, you'll go to jail on the weekends. So in other words, you have to report to the jail on Friday at 5 o'clock and you'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You will get out Sunday at 6 o'clock. Apparently that's actually a real thing. So what was in the book bag were multiple yellow receipts for different weekends that he had to report and get out of jail. Last but not least, there were some additional pictures, and then there were some, and when I say pictures, I'm talking about family photos. And then there was another additional copy of his driver's license with the Douglasville address. I looked up that address. The name associated with that address was the same name as the ex-girlfriend that he had in between the ex-wife and me. If you go back to the video where I talk about the conversation I had with the ex-wife, she tells me that the address was going to come back to the ex-girlfriend. I'm simply saying that is correct. So what she told me is true. So because of everything that I found, I decided to go down a new rabbit hole. Again, just recapping what I said in previous videos. Ex-husband was always a stickler about law enforcement. His dad was a retired police officer. I'm just telling y'all the story. His dad was a retired police officer. Mom was a retired teacher. After his dad retired, they moved to Augusta, started a church. He took me to that church in Augusta, the same day that he took me to meet his aunt who lived in Augusta. So these are now things that he actually took me to, just like he took me to the cemetery. So that's what I found in the book bag. The weekender jail receipts. I went ahead and went online to find out exactly why did he have to go to jail for the weekend. And I'm going to end this part here. The next part has to do with his criminal history. Part 40, who the fuck did I marry? So we're now at the point of July 2021. We're at the point where I've spoken to the female cousin, and she gave me the phone number for the older brother. For the purposes of this video, we're going to call him Chris. Chris was very nice. I called him. He was gracious. He was willing to answer whatever questions I had. And what he said to me was, he said, my brother has always been a liar. He's always been a liar. He said, but ask me what questions you have and I'll confirm what's real and what's not. First question I had was, when was the last time you spoke to him? Without missing a beat, Chris says, 2015, just after our mother's funeral. I explained to him about the phone calls, the fact that Legion would be on the phone for 35 minutes, laughing, talking to Chris, relaying messages from Chris to me, and relaying messages from me to Chris. Without missing a beat, Chris says he was never talking to me. And he said, now I am going to say this. Maybe he was on the phone, but he was not on the phone with me. He said, because he knows that if I ever see him, I'm going to whoop his ass. And I'm laughing because obviously Legion loves to say I'm going to whoop somebody's ass. So for the people who are confused, like, wait, what does this mean about the phone calls? What this means is every single time that my ex-husband was on the phone, holding his phone like this, talking, laughing, cracking jokes. Hey, my wife said that, you know, we can go later on this evening and all this other stuff. Every time they were doing things like that, every time he was having a phone call or conversation that he claims to be with Chris, no one is on the phone. No one's on the phone. That is what that means. So I'm on the phone with Chris. My mind is spinning. It is blowing up like a volcano. I mean, I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy because what this means is that for the past 4 or 5 months, every morning that he is having a phone call with his brother Chris, I am now understanding in real time that that phone call was completely fake. So Chris tells me maybe he was talking to somebody else, but it wasn't me. He said the only family member that Legion actually talks to is the twin. And that's only because for some reason, I guess it's their twins, he helps him out when he needs it. Legion only calls the twin when he needs money. And the twin, according to Chris, now this is the part that might blow some minds. The twin brother, the one that is older by 20 minutes, is VP of his company, is married, drives a luxury car, and lives in like a 4 or 5 bedroom house in Nashville. So Chris is saying to me, he was like, it sounds like he took the identity of the twin and was trying to act like that's his life. And it's not. He was like, that nigga ain't never had no money, ain't never kept a job a long period of time. And he was like, and you're telling me that he claims he was VP of a company? And so he was like, did you ever see anything? Did you ever meet people like Chris? I respect the fact that he was asking me the same questions y'all are asking me. Did you ever meet any family members? And I told him, I said, I met your aunt. Well, what aunt is that? I told him her name. He said, that ain't our damn aunt. I don't know if y'all have ever dealt with people from Philly. So he was just loud. He was like, that ain't our aunt. He said, that is our mother's best friend. And I don't trust that hoe. I'm sorry. It's the way he said it that it makes me laugh. Anyway, he's like, I don't trust her. I don't trust her at all. She is not our aunt. She was our mother's best friend when our mother was living in Augusta. She's not our aunt. So then I explained to him about the other brothers. The brothers, remember, there were 2 half brothers from his dad. One lived in Baltimore, one lived in Augusta. Chris is on the phone saying, I don't know who them niggas are. They ain't related to us. He said, our dad never had other kids. He was like, so you mean to tell me this nigga going around telling people that our dad had kids on our mom? And I said to him, well, the way he actually put it is that the 2 brothers came before y'all. He was like, hell no. No. So then I explained to him about the sisters. He was like, who the hell is Shantae? And I was like, Shantae, again, I'm just telling you what I was told. Shantae is his sister that lives in Douglasville, married with 2 kids. He was like, no, we don't have a sister. Told him about Kim. He was like, Kim's not our sister, she's a cousin. And he said to me, and I know she ain't talked to him in forever in 2 days. He said, so everyone, the only people who are his family members is Chris and the twin. He's like, we got some cousins up here. I told him about Junebug. I told him about the uncle. I told him about the grandmother. And he's just sitting back like, oh my God. He said, he was like, I realize that every relationship my brother gets in, he gets worse. And it sounds like he is actually worse than what he was in the last relationship. And I thought he was talking about the ex-wife that I had spoken to. No, he had no idea there was another wife. Because again, he hasn't spoken to him since 2015. So he was like, the best thing I can say to you is this. He said, thank God you ain't have kids with him. He said, get your divorce and forget you ever met this man. And he was like, and I know how that sounds because he's my brother. He said, but if I didn't have to claim him, I wouldn't. And I said to him something that I should have probably said in this whole TikTok series. This is not someone that you forget. This is not a situation that, you know, man, I don't even remember him. No. What I don't remember is the version of myself before I met him, because nothing so far has turned out to be true. The only thing that Chris was able to tell me is true is that, number one, yes, there is a brother in Philly, him. Yes, there is a brother in Nashville, the twin. Yes, both parents are deceased. That is what I was told from the beginning. Those pieces of information are true. The grandmother did die in 2008. He was like, no, she didn't. She definitely didn't die in 2020. I told him how I found the obituary. And so he was like, and the uncle, he said, which uncle is he talking about? Because if you guys remember, back in one of the parts, I talk about where he said his uncle was giving him advice on why he should not open up his savings account to let me see it. He would not let me see it. And so I'm telling Chris about the uncle, and he was like, that uncle been dead for years. I told him about Junebug. He said, Junebug been dead for years. And I said, Chris, he was having conversations with Junebug on the phone in front of me. He was like, it wasn't Junebug. He said, it sounds like my brother was making up the conversations. He said, he definitely was making up the conversations with me. He said, hell no, I ain't gonna be on the phone at no 6 o'clock in the morning. So the conversation with Chris solidified that this is the actual family tree. And no, there were never any conversations with his brother every morning when I was getting ready to go to work. They had never talked. On to the next part. Part 41, who the fuck did I marry? So this is a continuation of my conversation with Chris, which will then lead into some other stuff. So Chris has confirmed that he has not spoken to Legion since 2015. So now we know that the phone calls that Legion was having every morning on the phone with Chris when we were, you know, getting ready to go to work, the phone calls were fake. I demonstrated in the last video how I think he, you know, how he was doing those phone calls. Because he would relay messages from me to whoever was on the phone. So Chris and I also then talked about their parents. So if you remember in the beginning, I told you from the get-go, this man was, you know, very respectful of law enforcement because his dad was a retired Philadelphia police officer. The mom was a retired teacher. And so he had the utmost respect for law enforcement. That's what he used to always say. Because, again, there's a lot that he lied about. So I'm trying to only highlight the big things because, truthfully, it got to a point where when he would say that as a VP in his company, he had a meeting with the local sheriff. Child, we know that's a lie, so I don't even need to go into detail about that, because again, why? So I told Chris what Legion said about their dad being a retired police officer, and I was explaining how he said the mom was a retired teacher. So Chris listened. Again, very gracious, very nice guy. He listened, and he was like, so are you ready for me to tell you what's true and what's not? And at this point, I was already convinced I was going to be drinking heavily that night after this phone call. So I was like, go ahead. All right, so here's what Legion said. Legion said, my dad was a retired police officer with Philadelphia PD. When he retired, he and my mom moved to Augusta. I was there for high school, and they started a church. He took me to that church in Augusta and showed me where the church that they started. The truth. Dad, according to Chris, their dad was nowhere near the church. That man ain't go to church on Easter. He ain't go to church on Christmas. He was like, my dad he ain't stepped foot in the church since the day he got married. That was the last time he went to church. He ain't have nothing to do with church. He said that their father was the furthest thing from a pastor. And he was like, I love my dad, but that man drank, smoked, and nah, he was not a pastor. The mom was not a retired teacher. She did substitute teach at one point, but she was not a retired teacher. The dad was a truck driver. And not only was the dad a truck driver, at one point, he was a correctional officer. And so I said to Chris, I was like, yeah, I said I had no idea, of course. I had no idea. So now we know the truth. The dad was never in law enforcement. And I'm not knocking correctional officers. I want to make very clear, because I know that sometimes people that work in law enforcement feel like, look, when I'm out there patrolling, that is not the same as being a correction officer, and correction officers may feel the same. So I just want to give the distinction between the two. So the dad at one point was a correction officer. However, his primary career was a truck driver. And so the dad would do long hauls. So Chris is explaining, no, he was like, now that's funny. He said, if you knew our dad, you would understand how funny that is to even insinuate that he was a pastor. And so I told him about the church that we went to. He was like, oh, okay. So he took you to a church in Augusta and told you that was our parents' church. He was like, now, our mom used to go to church, every now and then. But he said, our dad ain't been to church since the day he married mom. So the church that Legion took me to and said that his parents started that church, that was not true. So he just took me on a field trip for nothing, basically. So I told him about the weekend, because I did tell Chris where I worked. And that is when Chris said to me, because at the time I worked in a law enforcement agency, and he said to me, now how does that work? He said, because Legion, he done been in trouble a few times. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I had not yet gone online into the court system to see what type of trouble he's been in. And so he explained to me, he was like, just run his criminal history and you'll see it for yourself. He said, because I don't know all the charges, but run his criminal history. I said, okay. He gave me some homework. I'll run his criminal history. So again, he cleared up a lot of stuff in regards to the family dynamics. He did explain to me that, yes, he does have a daughter. He and his ex-wife are divorced. And I said, well, Legion would talk about the niece, meaning Chris's daughter, and would send her stuff for her birthday. And he was like, he said, I'm almost positive my brother never sent anything for my daughter's birthday. And I explained to him, I said, isn't your daughter's name Egypt? He said, no. Who the hell is Egypt? And I said, I was told that was your daughter's name. That's the reason why I'm saying the name on here, because obviously we're about to confirm that's not the daughter. So I said, I was told that's your daughter's name. I said, I went with him to Rack Room Shoes and bought shoes for what I was told was your daughter. And she lived in St. Louis with your ex-wife. He said, no. He said, my daughter and my ex-wife do not live in St. Louis. He said, I don't know who Egypt is. He was like, are you sure it wasn't for a woman? And I said, well, it was kids' shoes. And he was like, no. He said, and I told him, I said, I went to the UPS store, I mailed it, and it, you know, they printed the label with the girl's name on it, and I'm thinking this whole time it's Legion's niece. Chris is like, I don't know who that is. That's not even the name of one of our cousins. So I have no idea, ladies and gentlemen, who my ex-husband was buying girl shoes for and had me sending them telling me it's for his niece. I have no idea. So Chris is like, yeah, he finally said to me the same thing the ex-wife said, which is pretty much whatever he told you is a lie. And I'm being honest with you guys. It is very hard to comprehend that everything is a lie. Like, there has to be something that's true. I'm like, how was he paying? If he wasn't working at the condiment company, or he got fired from the condiment company, how was he still paying the bills? Keep in mind, we never joined our accounts. He wanted to, but we never did, because he wouldn't show me the offshore, the savings account, which of course never existed. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I know that I saw his checking account. I know that I saw his savings account, and he had money in there. Something had to be true. Something had to be true. And Chris was like, no. He said, it sounds like everything my brother said, everything that he told you was made up. He said, those phone calls were definitely made up. He said, I don't know who Egypt is. That's not any family member of ours. I don't know who Shantae is. We don't have a sister. He said, we don't have half brothers. He was like, I'm telling you who the family members are. He said, I am so sorry that my brother put you through this. So now let's go into the next part. Part 42. Who the fuck did I marry? So I finished going through the book bag. Still July of 2021. I finished going through the book bag. There were some other folders with papers in there. He had left the work phone. What I actually found out was that it was not a work phone. It was simply a secondary personal phone. He told me it was a work phone. I thought that the company was paying for the work phone. That's what I thought. No, because I found receipts where basically, and I didn't know this, ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea, but I found receipts where it was a prepaid phone, and he's paying to add minutes to it. So it's just receipts of, you know, you added minutes to the phone on this date, you added minutes on that date. So the work phone whole thing, that was a bold-faced lie. Obviously it was a lie, because as we now know, he was a forklift loader. So the work phone that he's been walking around with was really just a secondary phone. He had left the phone. He took his personal phone, meaning the main phone, I should say, but the work phone he left. So I'm going through the work phone, just trying to find some sort of answer. Now what is really burning in my mind is how is it that he had all this money in the accounts, but again, the last time I saw him, he's living in his car. Like, the math is not mathing. I go into not just the photos of the work phone. I go into the deleted folder. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to go through somebody's phone, which I will never do again, but if you're going to go through the phone, don't just go through the text messages and the pictures. Go into the deleted folder, because sometimes you find a gold mine. In this case, I went into the deleted folder of the pictures in the work phone. I keep saying work phones because, again, this is just a secondary phone. It is deactivated. There's no minutes on it. So I go into the deleted pictures, and what I see is what looks like a screenshot of his checking account, the one that I saw with the available balance. Then there's another photo of the screenshot of the savings that he showed me. Now, one of two things it could be. Either one, it's not real and it was pulled offline, or two, he took a screenshot of his own account and saved the photos. So this is when I got introduced to reverse Google image search. I did a reverse Google image search. Sure enough, as you probably have figured out, some of you, because I read it in the comments, what he showed me when he turned his phone around, showing me his available checking account balance, was nothing more than a screenshot that he had found on Google. When he showed me his savings, turned the phone around, because remember, I demonstrated for y'all how he was, and then, you know, turned it around and showed it to me as if he was signing in. When he did that, he was simply showing me a screenshot that he had taken from Google Images. Because when I did a reverse Google image search with those two photos, the checking and the savings, it came right up. It was nothing more than just Google Images. In my phone, I didn't even need this because, again, I already knew that he was not a VP regional manager, but still, for shits and giggles, I did a reverse image search of the charcoal BMW. Remember, I told y'all he had sent me pictures of the company car. Nothing more than a screenshot he had taken off of Google Images. The house that he showed me that he had in San Diego, Google Images. So what we can now confirm is anything he showed me when he's turning his phone around is nothing more than an image from Google Images at this point. The checking account, the savings account, Google Images. The house, Google Images. The company car, that charcoal gray BMW 5 Series, Google Images. So at this point, I realized, okay, nothing is real. And I wasn't so much in a rage, to be honest with you. I wasn't in a rage then and there, as much as it was, I really truly had a moment where I said to myself, oh my God, what the fuck have I let in my life? Like, this is not even human at this point. That's really how I felt. Like, again, as someone who, I studied psychology, but I didn't graduate with a psychology degree. However, I have never dealt with a pathological liar. I have studied about them, but I have never come into contact with a pathological liar. Because to a compulsive liar, if you ask them, man, why did you lie to me? They probably are going to have a reason. Pathological liars don't have a reason. Like, there's no limit to the lie. So I have now confirmed that at least 70% of everything that I thought I knew is now absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. So in between all of this, I get a phone call from the aunt in Augusta. The aunt in Augusta, who Chris has confirmed is the mother's best friend. She is not their mother's sister or dad's sister. She's the best friend of the deceased mom. She calls me, and this is the one I have met. This is the one that Chris was like, I don't trust that hoe, you know. Anyway, So she called because she wanted to know what happened. She wasn't trying to be nosy or messy or anything like that. She's just trying to find out what happened because apparently Legion is trying to come stay with her. So she asked me, sweet lady, but she said, you know, what happened with you guys? And I told her we're getting a divorce. I said, because he lied to me a lot. He lied to me a lot. And so what breaks my heart about the conversation with her is that she said, so whatever happened to the baby? Mind you, we went to Augusta, told her I was pregnant. I thought he told her that I had a miscarriage. He didn't. He never told this woman I had a miscarriage. So she informs me, this is what she tells me. So now we're confirming something else. She tells me that on at least 5 times while I'm at work, Legion was driving to Augusta and telling her that he was going to visit the church of where the parents allegedly the church that the parents started. And I was like, what do you mean he went to Augusta? She said, I've seen him like 4 or 5 times. He's come down here, and each time I've asked him to bring the baby. And I said, what baby? And she said, the baby that y'all had. He told me that y'all had a baby boy. And I said, no, ma'am. I said I had a miscarriage in June of 2020. And she said, oh my God. Oh, you know, she was doing that whole thing. She said this whole time he told me that y'all had a son in January. And I have been asking him for pictures. I have been asking him to bring both of you down here so I could meet him. And he always had an excuse as to why he wouldn't bring the baby. And the last time he was in Augusta, he said that he was leaving you and he was taking the baby with him and that you were at work. I am not making this up. That is what that woman told me. And I just was like, no, ma'am. None of that is true. There is no baby. I said I had no idea he was going to Augusta. Next part. Part 43, who the fuck did I marry? So after the conversation with the aunt, again, she's telling me that Legion has been keeping up this lie that we had a son. I let her know, no ma'am, there was no baby. We did not have a baby. And I said, I thought that he told you. And she said, he's told a few people that you all had a baby. And she said, because I know some people were trying to send a gift to celebrate the birth. I didn't know anything about that. Didn't know anything about that. So she said, he's trying to come stay with me. She said, but I don't think I want him to, again, she's an older lady. She was like, I don't think I want him to come here because I don't really want to get involved with his divorce again. And I said, what do you mean again? I said, are you talking about the previous wife? And I said the previous ex-wife's name. She said, I don't know who that is. I'm talking about LaTanya, that one, the first one. And I said, well, what happened? Do y'all remember I said in my previous video that I read their divorce records. He had filed for divorce and they had a temporary protection order against each other. I said that. So now the aunt is on the phone saying that she had to go to court and testify on Legion's behalf in regards to the temporary protective order. And I was like, well, what happened? She said they got into a fight with each other. And she slapped him. And I said, well, do you know why they got into a fight? And she said, yeah, apparently he had lied to the wife and it was something major and they got into a physical fight. And she said that woman almost beat his behind. And so he asked the court for a temporary protective order. So now I'm just getting the backstory on how that TPO was even came into play. So I told her, I said, you know, Miss, Christy, we'll call her. I said, you don't have to worry about that. I said, we're not, he's already signed the paperwork. We're not fighting. I don't have it in me. I don't. So I said, I'm not going to tell you not to have certain people in your home, but I am going to tell you that I'm just barely kind of discovering exactly what the lies are in regards to Legion. So if you feel comfortable having him in your home, then do it. I said, but I am going forward with this divorce, and once the divorce is final, I will have nothing to do with him. And I said, and I'm so sorry, you know, that he lied to you and kind of pulled at your heartstrings in regards to a baby. I said, there is no baby. So she said, so y'all are really getting a divorce? I said, and I didn't want to cuss to the older ladies, but I said, yes, ma'am. We are. And so we get off the phone. Also during this time, Legion would call me every now and then. Legion had no idea. I've spoken to his ex-wife. I've spoken to his brother. I've spoken to his female cousin. He had no idea. I have now, if we want to go through real quick and talk about what we can confirm. We can confirm that there is no sister. We already knew there was no baby. There was no VP job. Again, he was a temp, and apparently he was making decent money. So what I believe, and this is just what I think off of putting pieces together, I think that he made enough money to pay the household bills, because it wasn't as if the household bills were so expensive. He made enough money to live on his own. But instead of him living on his own, he's living with me. So we can also confirm that when he told me that he was paying his car off and he called the dealership and paid his car off, we can confirm that that's a lie. That story will come up later on. So pretty much at this point, the only thing I know to be true, his name, his date of birth, the secondary social security number that was on my background check, and that he has 2 brothers and the parents are deceased. At this point in time of July 2021, that is all that's all that I was able to confirm that to be true. So later on, Legion calls me. He calls me because he wants some money. He just needs a little bit of money to hold him over till payday. And so we're on the phone. The call, again, I was recording all my calls at the time. We're on the phone, and I finally kind of confronted him, number one, about having a twin. That's when he tells me, you know, I don't know why I lied, but I don't really talk about him. Number two, I asked him why did he get fired from the condiment company. His story is that he got fired because he had helped a truck driver and he was not supposed to. I know it's a lie. Y'all don't even have to tell me. I know it's a lie. Number three, I asked him, why did you tell your aunt that we had a baby? He claims he never told her that, and that she's old and she didn't know what she was talking about. So then I asked him if he was ever in trouble where he's been arrested. And he said, yeah, I've been arrested as a juvenile, but my father had my record expunged. I said, were you ever arrested as an adult? He said, nah, I ain't never been arrested as an adult. I said, so you never went to weekend jail? He said, no, I don't even know what that is. So he doesn't know what weekend jail is. That's his story. And so he was still standing by the lies he told me. So finally, I just asked him, and this is where let me just say it. I asked him, why the hell did you even marry me? Like, why? Why did you even marry me? Because you easily could have just stayed dating or been the boyfriend or just moved on with your life. Like, you didn't have to marry me. You didn't have to pull me into a marriage and make me think that this is what you wanted. This is what he said to me on that phone call. He said, I had to marry you. And I was like, no, you didn't. He said, yes, I did. He said, I knew full well from day one that there was no way you were going to stay my girlfriend for longer than a year. He said, I knew it. He said, I knew in order to keep you, I was going to have to marry you. Y'all, my jaw hit the ground. I could not believe he said that. And he said it so matter of fact. And I was like, that is the most fucked up thing you could ever say. Part 44. Who the fuck did I marry? The videos that you saw earlier were filmed earlier today. And yes, I'm aware. It was brought to my attention. I had to make a decision whether or not to finish, keep my word, or stop, disappear. I mean, disappear. Okay. Let's finish. So, first of all, let me say this. It is not easy telling this story. It's entertaining. I know it's gone viral. But it is not easy telling this story. I made a decision to tell this story. I made a decision to share my story, what I went through, in hopes that it helps just one person. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all, it is not easy telling this story, to relive it, to face certain things out loud that I had to face internally. Just want to say that. So I will push forward to finish, but today got to me. The toll of this got to me today. So I know that you all are like, we're waiting on the next part. We're waiting on the next part. I appreciate that. And I get it, because if I was in those shoes, I would be waiting too and be like, where is it? So I understand that. But the toll was real today. All right. So with that being said, we are still in July of 2021. I talked to the brother, Chris. I talked to the aunt. I talked to all these people. And now was the time where I had saw the receipts for the weekend jail type thing. So I went ahead and did a search for his criminal history. I ran his criminal history. I did that on my own at home with my money. So this was not, I think someone had asked if I did anything with my job. No, I did not. I know better. So I ran a criminal history, or I paid for a criminal background report. For him to say that he appreciates law enforcement so much, it was obviously a lie, because the criminal history showed that he had been arrested for criminal trespassing. He had been arrested for like suspended license, suspended registration. But the big thing was impersonating an officer. If you don't know anything about impersonating an officer, it is a felony. Period, point blank. As sure as Peachtree runs from Bankhead to Buckhead, it is a felony. So seeing that, seeing what court it was in, I did another open records request for the incident report. I wanted to know exactly what the circumstances were, especially given the fact that I worked in law enforcement at the time. What were the circumstances as to how he was arrested for impersonating an officer? So I did an open records request. I got the incident report, and I'm tired of saying my jaw hit the floor. But on this one, my jaw hit the fucking floor. I respect law enforcement. Again, I was working in an agency with a lot of great men and women. Basically, what the incident report, and I'm paraphrasing it because I don't have it sitting in front of me. Basically, what the incident report shows is that he pretended to be an officer using a badge. I later found out it was the badge that his dad had as a former correction officer. Same last name. So he was pretending to be a police officer at an apartment complex on the south side of Atlanta and proceeded to tell people that he was an investigator and he was looking for drugs. He also proceeded to try to pat down someone, and then also proceeded to try to go into a woman's apartment and do a search. This is in the incident report. So naturally, the woman who he was trying to get into her apartment to do a search happened to either work with or worked at a local police department. So she just simply called her coworkers or called her homeboys or whatever. And so he was subsequently arrested and subsequently was charged and found guilty. That is what I found in his criminal record report. It is fair to note, had I known that he had a criminal history, we never would have even finished date number 1. Some things I'm just not going to get involved with if I know from the rip. So what does this mean? Again, we've been going over what's the lie, what can you confirm? I can confirm that there was no way that this man ever had a passport to take me to London. When he claimed that he was voting in the election, there's no way that he did, because he tried to tell me that he was still a registered voter in California and that he did it online. I knew it was a lie, but again, at this point in July, I'm able to confirm that, yeah, you never had a passport. You never voted. The small things that mean something to me, he never did it. He wasn't eligible to. So now I know that not only have you, yes, been arrested. Now, what happened as a juvenile, I don't care. But you have been arrested. You have done some sort of time. And now it explains why you knew your way around the county so well. If you go back to the previous videos, I had mentioned that I was wondering, how do you know your way around here? And the story was his sister used to live in this county, and he would come visit when he would fly in from California, when he would go see his parents in Augusta. That was the story. So that explains the criminal history. And I'm also going to take you guys back and remind you when I had to go in for my polygraph and how the polygrapher had asked me, do you know anyone that is a convicted felon that you have relationships with, blah, blah, blah. And remember, I said to him, my husband and I are estranged. I honestly don't know. Fast forward to July, where I find out that, yes, in fact, on top of everything, I was married to a convicted felon. Had no idea. No idea whatsoever. And it's nothing but the grace of God that I was honest with the polygrapher and telling him, look, I don't know what's in this man's background. To say that I have no idea who I married is an understatement. It is a complete understatement. It's fair to say, well, you only knew him for like 2.5 weeks before you quarantined with him. That's fair. And I can understand that, and I take responsibility for that. But in the big scheme of things, I had no idea the creature that I was sleeping next to every night. No idea. All right, part 45, who the fuck did I marry? So we are now end of July, August time frame. During this time, Legion basically disappeared. Remember, I'm still waiting on the final divorce decree to come up. I'm actually waiting for the 30 days to be up so I can file the divorce settlement form. So I'm waiting on those 30 days to be up. I'm playing nice with him. I'm being cordial. I have done uncovered all kinds of stuff. But just in case he was going to act a fool, I was trying to be cordial. So I had spoken to him on like a Monday, and I was trying to get a hold of him for something, but I'm the one that initiated a phone call in the coming days. Never heard from him. Never heard from him at all. His phone was dead. It was going straight to voicemail, and I genuinely was worried. A few days turned into a week. By the time I hadn't heard from him in a week, because I knew he was not living anywhere but his car. I knew that. So this is what happened, y'all. I first reached out on Facebook. Remember, even though he has told me that he had all these siblings, we know he didn't have all these siblings. But remember, I told y'all I had met the brother in Augusta, and I had met the brother in Baltimore. These are people I've met. The brother in Baltimore I talked to on FaceTime. The brother in Augusta I've actually physically met, hugged, shake hands, all that. So I reached out on Facebook to people that I remember him talking about all the time. The friend Omar, the brother in Augusta, the brother in Baltimore, another cousin in Augusta. I was doing a search for these people's names, just like, hey, have you heard from Legion? The brother in Augusta told me, no, I haven't heard from him. I've been trying to reach him, but the phone's going straight to voicemail. I knew he was living in his car. So my brain was doing everything it could not to go on the deep end. I reached out on Facebook to the brother in Baltimore. And I said, hey, gave him my name. And I said, have you heard from Legion? Now, mind you, the brother in Baltimore and him have talked on speakerphone. I guess it's important that I make that distinction. They have talked on speakerphone. So I know that they have talked at least in 2020. So I said to him, again, according to Legion, they talk all the time. But I have heard them on the phone in 2020. So I said, have you talked to him? The brother from Baltimore informs me, no, I ain't talked to him. He owes me money. So I ain't got nothing to say to him. And I said, wait a second, he was telling me that y'all are brothers. He was like, man, he's like a brother. But I don't fuck with it. I don't fuck with him because he owes me money. So they had not spoken. This is now July 2021. They had not spoken in well over 6 months. So all the phone calls, this is what it means, guys. All the phone calls that he had with the brother in Baltimore in 2021 were not real. Then I reached out to the Omar guy, and I remember the story was that he and him known each other's years since California, worked together at the condiment company. I reached out to Omar and said, have you heard from Legion by any chance? Explained who I was. He responds with, and I'll never forget it, he responds with, no, I have not heard from him. I have absolutely no contact with him whatsoever. We are not friends, and I would appreciate if you do not reach out to me again about him. The stories I was told was that this dude is supposedly his best friend. Shocking moment. So they had not spoken in years. They're not cool. He does not fool with him. Okay. Went on to the next person, a female cousin I had met. She said, no, I have not heard from him. Why would I hear from him? We don't really talk. I think she was genuinely weirded out by the fact that I'm reaching out to her out of the blue asking, hey, by any chance, have you talked to my soon-to-be ex-husband? So what I discovered because he ended up being gone for 2 weeks. What I discovered in those 2 weeks Let me be very clear with the statement I'm getting ready to make. I reached out to every person I know who apparently has had some form of relationship with him. Either he said that they were friends, they talked on the phone, he said they hung out. The brother in Baltimore, I was told, had been to the house while I was at work. Brother in Baltimore said, no, that never happened. I've never been to your house. All these people knew that Legion was a liar. And I think that they all felt bad, with the exception of the Omar guy, felt bad that I was kind of just discovering what they've known for years. In those 2 weeks, I found out every single person I reached out to, not a single one of them gave a shit if that man was dead or alive. All of them had the attitude, some even said it, no, I haven't heard from him. I don't care to hear from him. It was as if, it was for me, it was such a sad moment because I discovered this man has no friends. Fuck whatever he has said. I am now able to prove it. He has no friends. There is nobody who is concerned that they have not heard or seen him in over 2 weeks. Some people months. One guy years. None of them were concerned. So basically what I'm saying is that I discovered he had burned bridges with everyone. Burned bridges with family, burned bridges with so-called friends, burned bridges with fake brothers, fake sisters, fake aunties, uncles, everything. He had burned bridges with everyone. And for me, that was more telling than anything else. Yes, I knew he was a liar. Yes, I knew he had made stuff up. I was genuinely surprised to discover nobody gave a shit about this man. No one. I had never met every single family member, but the fact that he was living in his car, the fact that he wasn't bathing and was just had disappeared was shocking to me. So, where was he for those 2 weeks? Glad you asked. He had checked himself into a behavioral hospital in Augusta. Why? Not to get help. No. This is July in Georgia. It's hot as hell. It's sweaty. It's damp. It's humid. It's everything. He checked himself into a hospital so he could stop sleeping in his car for 2 weeks. When he checked himself in, they took his phone, and that's why no one was able to get a hold of him. And by no one, I mean me. He checked himself into a hospital so that he could have a bed for a couple of weeks. That's the type of human being that I was dealing with. Part 46, who the fuck did I marry? So after the whole missing in action debacle where he disappeared for a couple of weeks, Legion started calling and texting me, telling me that he was ready to come home. Yes, you heard that correct. So apparently someone had told him that legally he did not have to leave the house when I kicked him out because it was a marital home and he had just as much right to be there as I did. So he started harassing and calling the shit out of me. He was calling, 30 times in 1 hour. He was Facebook Messenger calling me. Let me be clear. Facebook Messenger calling me. He was calling me so much. He was messaging me saying, I'm coming home. I'm going to get some money and drive up from Augusta. You have to let me in the house. It's not fair what you're doing. All this other bullshit. It was nonstop. He would start calling at 7 o'clock in the morning. He would not stop calling until 10 o'clock at night. He was calling so much, leaving messages, like I said, just straight up harassing me. So I reached out to attorney friends. I reached out to local law enforcement. Local law enforcement informed me, well, technically, he's right because he is still legally your husband. Our divorce had not been finalized at this point. The paperwork had been sent in. I was just waiting on the judge to give me her signature, but it hadn't happened yet. So the local law enforcement did tell me if he comes back, our officers would have to let him in the house. You don't have to stay there. They gave me different options. I mean, I was trying everything in the book because he is saying I'm coming back to the house. I told him, do not come. You were not welcome. I'm not letting you in the house. Again, the locks had been changed. The code had been changed. So I told him, if you come to this house, step foot on this property, I'm calling the police and getting you arrested for trespassing. You should know about that. He was adamant. He was adamant that he was allowed back in the home. He didn't know the conversations I had with local law enforcement, but somebody was in his ear telling him, nah, you can go home because she's not allowed to kick you out. Okay. So I didn't know when he was scheduled to come because he was trying to get the money for the gas to get back to Clayton County. I tried everything I could. Basically, what my options were simple. Let him in the home, and I can stay in the home, put him in a room, just have no dealings with him. But again, I don't want to be under the same roof with him. This is what the local police told me. I could have an officer go room to room and let his body cam film the room to see the condition of the house. And if Legion showed up, I would leave the house. I can go to a family member's home and stay there. This is literally in August, right before my lease is up. So I was already moving. I had already secured another home, did exactly what I said I was going to do, moving to Cobb County. So I just needed a couple of weeks before I vacate the home. So the other option was, again, have the officer film the home with the body camera. That way it shows what the condition of the home is at the time that he moved in. So if anything gets messed up, I can sue him. What am I going to sue him for? But nevertheless, or the third option is I can stay there with him, make life miserable. So my plan was the option of have them film the home. I was not staying in the same house with him. I didn't care. Also, there was no guarantee, and I told the officer this, look, if y'all allow him to stay in this house, I am telling you by tomorrow morning, every utility in this house will be off. He will have no running water. He will have no air condition. This place will feel like a sauna. Officer kind of chuckled and was like, again, ma'am, I mean, this is one of those domestic situations. He is allowed in the home. Okay. So again, I had no idea when he was coming. I was on pins and needles every day. I'm seeing the phone ring, like I said, about 30 times every hour. I'm seeing the messages. I'm seeing this. I had reached out to a police captain. I had reached out to the chief of police. I was trying to get all kinds of help. Like, it ain't what you know, is who you know. So he eventually tells me, I'm going to be there on Wednesday. This is just an example. I'm going to be there on Wednesday. I had been calling a police captain who was really gracious, really kind, and was trying to help me because I was like, bro, I just need 2 weeks and I'm out of this house. And we already knew he legally could not go to the new house. I was trying to see if I could move in early to the new place. The landlord was like, I really can't let you. So I felt like I was running out of options. He's saying he's coming. He's saying he's coming. He's adamant he's coming. I guess somebody felt sorry and gave him some gas money so he could drive from Augusta up to Clayton County. So the day before all this goes down, the police captain called me and he informs me that they ran his name through GCIC. which is a database that law enforcement agencies use. Turns out he has a warrant for his arrest. So the police captain says this changes everything. If he shows up to the house, don't do anything, call us. I will have officers to your home and they will simply arrest him. So I know that this is a short part, but I'm going to dedicate the next part to what happened when he showed up to my house. Part 47, who the fuck did I marry? So here's what happened. This was mid-August. Went to work as usual. It actually happened on a Friday. I had to look at the dates. It happened on a Friday. Went to work. Still, he was calling me, texting me, messaging me that he was on his way. And so I was a bit on pins and needles all day. I was dreading going home, and that is a horrible feeling, to dread to go home. So he had called me and said that he was at the house in the driveway. I guess he had to use the restroom, so he decided to go to the Walmart up the street to go use the bathroom. I wasn't answering phone calls. I wasn't answering text messages. I simply called the police captain. I said, hey, he's saying that he's at the house. The police captain himself drove by the house, but I believe he drove by the house when Legion went to Walmart to use the bathroom. So the police captain was like, I don't see anyone there. But again, when you get home, if he is there, do not engage. Call us. Okay? No problem. Because I got you on speed dial. So I go home. I'm on the phone with both my mother and my aunt on a 3-way call. They're both like, oh my God, you know, what do we need to do? I drive into my subdivision. What he did not know was that he had backed into the driveway up against the garage. Normally I park my car in the garage. But what he didn't know was that at the time I was driving a fleet car. So I wasn't even in my normal car. And I know that he was waiting to see my car, the Nissan Altima that he helped get, pull in to the subdivision and then pull in towards my townhome. That didn't happen. Because I'm in a different car, he didn't recognize it. So when I turned onto my street, as sure as it is hot in Georgia in the summer, that man was sitting in the driveway in his Ford Taurus. Okay? So I live at the time not far from a cul-de-sac. So when you go straight down, you just turn around the cul-de-sac to come back up. So that's exactly what I did. I went to the corner, turned off so that I can see the house, but he would not have been able to see me. I went ahead and called 911. I was very calm, told them exactly what the captain had told me to say. I was like, my name is, the address is, I need police here because my ex-husband is here. He is not supposed to be here. And I feel as though I am in danger. She said, okay. She, again, regular phone call. She said, we're dispatching police to your home. As soon as I hang up, I then call the police captain. He immediately answers the phone. He says, we just got the call. I'm sending 4 officers your way. Okay, good. Get off the phone, call my mom and my aunt back because they were both like, call us back. Call them back on 3-way. I continue to sit there until I see 4 officers, 4 cars pull in and stop just in front of my house. So then I ease up. He gets out the car, I guess, trying to see what's going on. I explain to the officer that walks to my window. I say, this is what's going on. So I was trying to sound extra law enforcement smart. I was like, check him through GCIC. You're going to find that he has a warrant out for his arrest for violation of probation. And the officer kind of smirked because she was like, we know. We already checked GCIC. The captain called us. So I was like, okay. So anyway, they tell me to sit in the car. They go up to the window of the car and ask him to step out of the car. He does. When he's when he stepped out the car, I was like, oh my God. I hadn't seen him since the end of June when I met him at the UPS store. And he looked bad then. He was still in the same clothes. When I told you guys when I met him, he was like a size 3X. What got out of the car was easily a medium or large. Easily. That is how, and it makes sense because, you know, he probably wasn't eating, except for somebody gave him $6 for chicken nuggets. But what got out of the car was something I didn't even recognize. So he gets out of the car, they arrest him. There was no incident or anything like that. He was arrested peacefully. They put him in the back seat. My neighbors are all looking like, what is going on? And so the officer comes up to me and she said, you know, he's asking to speak to you. Do you want to speak to him? I said, yeah. So she walks with me. Keep in mind, she's wearing a body cam. So she walks with me to the window. They put the window down. And I remember looking at him. I was like, I told you not to come. And he said, I just wanted to get my stuff. I just wanted to get the TV. I said, what TV? The TV that you gave me in the divorce? And he was like, yeah, that TV. And I said, it's mine. You gave it to me. I have the fucking text messages proving that you gave me the TV. And I'm trying not to scream because the neighbors are all watching. And he was like, I know. I just needed my stuff. I'm sorry. I'll never bother you again. I'm sorry. And so I look at the officer and I was like, you have me out here with 4 fucking police cars. You have embarrassed me to no end. You have made a fool of me. And you got the audacity to now be like, I'm sorry. I'm like, fuck, you're sorry. So the officer was kind of like, okay. I said, I never want to see you again. He was like, you won't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So I walk off. The officer is like going through the stuff that was in his wallet. They took it out and put it on the roof of the car. So the stuff that was in his pants, like his wallet, his keys, they put it on the roof of the car when they had him get out the car. And so she's just like, you know, I said, did you catch all that on body cam? And she said, yeah. I said, he gave me the TV. And she said, yeah. She's like, we're going to take him in and we'll have somebody look at him, because in her words, she said he's definitely having a mental episode right now in the back seat. And I just shrugged and I was just like, my God, I just said, I just want to be done with him. I just want to be done. And so she was like, I understand. I totally get it. So his car is in my driveway. The keys and everything are, they took it with them because I guess since it was on him, they took it with them for processing at the jail. I think that's how that works, because I didn't see the wallet or the keys afterwards. So at this point, 4 officers leave. I go into the house. Everything's peaceful and calm. A few minutes later, I go outside to check the mail. What's in the mail but a letter from the court? I open it up. I go into the house because, again, it's hot. I had my wig on. My head is all sweaty and stuff. I'm just angry and just angry. That raised my blood pressure. So I go in the house. I sit on the steps inside the house and I open up the mail from the judge, and it's my final divorce decree. And I'm smiling right now, but y'all, when I got that divorce decree sitting on the stairs, I broke down into ugly Oprah tears. I broke down. It was as if a year worth of weight came off of me. I broke down, and I mean, I wailed. I broke down. I broke down so I broke down so bad. Next part. All right, part 48. Who the fuck did I marry? So, after I finished breaking down, wiped my tears, and his car is still in the driveway. I couldn't park in the driveway. So I called the car company. I had called the car company once before, when he went missing for those 2 weeks, to ask them if they maybe had a tracker on the car and could track it. And the nice gentleman informed me that the tracker had not been giving a signal off for about 5 months. So he wouldn't really give me details on the car, but obviously the car had not, the car payment was not being made on that car. It had not been made on that car for quite some time. So he and I split in June, but apparently the car payment wasn't made long before June. Can't speak to that, but he still had the car. So, called the car company. I told them, I understand that y'all are looking for this Ford Taurus. And the lady said, yes, or you can make a payment. I said, no, y'all can come get it. Here's the address. When do y'all want to get it? And she said, well, I can have a driver come get it tomorrow morning. I said, no problem. That car will be ready for you to get it tomorrow morning. And so the car was repossessed out of my driveway the next morning, Saturday. The driver was there about 7 o'clock in the morning. He had the master key for the car, cranked it up, drove it, put it on the tow truck, and left. Here's what that now means. When Legion left my house in June, he left with 2 bags of clothes. Everything else was in my house. At the end of July, or towards the end of July, everything that he had left in my house had been donated to the domestic violence shelter, which means that the only thing that Legion had were the clothes that he had taken with him in the car. When he got arrested in my driveway, all of his clothes were still in the car. And when the car got repossessed Saturday morning, all of the clothes were in there. Which means that when he went to jail, whenever he got out, he only got out with keys to a car he no longer had, a wallet with probably no money in it, and the clothes that were on his back. Everything else was gone. Now we can fast forward to what happened around August 29th. So I was scheduled to move August 31st. Remember, I'm moving up to Cobb County. We had been checking the court documents. He had a court date scheduled for around August 29th or August 30th. I don't remember the exact date. The court time was supposed to be around 9 o'clock in the morning. My mom was watching the court filings online. And according to her, because I missed it, they showed him on the screen because this was still during Zoom. They showed him on the screen, and then he was ushered out of the court into like a back area, and an attorney spoke on his behalf. Between the time that he had been arrested and the time of the court date, I had never in my life slept so good. Truthfully, never slept so good. I was officially divorced. I had no ties to him. There was nothing in the house of his there was nothing of his that was still in the house. I felt free. So, when the court date happened and my mom told me what she saw on the Zoom, I was confused. Is he getting out? Is he having to serve time? What's going on? I called the courts. I tried to speak to his attorney, and his attorney had a horrible attitude and was like, why are you calling me? And I informed him, I said, look, I'm a bit afraid of this man. So can you please just tell me if he is being released, or is he going to be kept, or if he is going to be sentenced to a longer jail term? He said, no, he's not being kept in a longer jail term because the warrant had expired. So when the police arrested him, yes, it was a valid arrest, but the warrant had expired. So I believe the warrant had expired like 6 months earlier, but of course it wasn't put in the system. Which means that if the court date is August 29th, he's going to be released August 29th or August 30th. I'm moving August 31st. So my mom was just like, please just spend the night at your aunt's house. Like, just spend the night at your aunt's house, then go back to the house during the day. The movers will be there, and then just move. So that's exactly what I did, because there was concern that he would get out of jail angry and catch a Uber with no money and come back to the house, either for retaliation or because he's just in a fucking manic mode. And so that's where he went. I really didn't want to take any chances. It's just that simple. I did not want to take any chances. I knew that at that point, legally, the law's on my side. Y'all are divorced. You have no reason to be at this home. I knew that that's what the police would say. But I wasn't 100% sure, because truthfully speaking, I did not know this man. We can make all the jokes we want. I did not know this man. I thought I knew him, but you never really know a pathological liar. So, needless to say, he got released August 30th. I went to my aunt's house for the night. August 31st, I went back to the house. The movers were there. They packed me up, and we got out of there so quick. I think they packed me up in about 2 hours. I honestly told them, there is extra money in this if you guys can get me packed up, meaning loaded up onto the truck, because everything was packed. But I explained to them, this is a domestic situation. I need you guys to move quickly. When I moved out of that house on August 31st, anything that Legion touched, I got rid of. I sold the furniture. I sold dining room tables. I donated plates, glasses. When I tell you, I moved out and I started over. I completely purged my life. Completely started over. I mean, I was not willing to take a single item into my new home that reminded me of him. From the dishes in the kitchen to the towels in the linen closet. When I tell you Amazon and Ross were my best friends, I mean they were my best friends, because I could not fathom moving into a new home, a new space, with anything that reminded me of him. I sold the bed, got a new bed. If he had bought me clothes, I got rid of them. If he bought me shoes and purses, okay, I kind of kept the heels. But everything else I got rid of. So I completely purged my life. Completely. Started over from the bottom in terms of just the move. I could not take any piece of him with me. Could not. Part 49, who the fuck did I marry? So after the whole, I moved and I started over, basically, completely started over. So there was a period of time where different people had reached out to me, people who knew him. Apparently, he was still trying to find a couch to sleep on. And so one guy in particular had reached out to me because I guess Legion had asked him if he could come and stay with him and his family, because he was homeless and had nowhere to go. And so he had lied and told the guy, because again, he's a liar. So he had lied and told the guy that, I had kicked him out. We're divorced. I had taken all his money. And so that's why he's homeless. So the gentleman simply was reaching out to me on Facebook to confirm what is actually true. And he and I talked, because he ended up calling me. He and I talked for a while. Very respectful, really nice guy, very compassionate. And so I told him, I was like, I said, we're divorced. So I have nothing to do with him. I said I wouldn't bring him in my house with my family if I were you, but that's just me. And so the guy was like, lady, he didn't say lady, but he was like, lady, you dodged a bullet. He was like, I know you may not see it now, my sister, but you dodged a bullet. You dodged a bullet big time. And so, just in talking to him, he was very encouraging. Like, it sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders. It sounds like you a good woman. And no, he was not flirting at all. He was like, it sounds like you a good woman. And I really hope this does not mess you up. Like, don't let him mess you up. Don't let him, like, diminish your shine kind of thing. And I appreciate that. I did. Because at that time, again, had moved into my new place. 2021 was the worst year I ever had. I'm not saying that so that 2024 can be like, hold my beer. But 2021 was a dark year. Started out married, end of the year divorce, end of the year with COVID and divorce. And that period of time, that August, September time, I felt like I was just walking around like a numb woman. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I didn't know what to do because I felt like I had just been through hell. And it was a period of time where I had to sit down and I had to really, really deal with some stuff that I just simply was not ready to deal with. Things that I had to come to grips with that I really wasn't ready to come to grips with. So fast forward all this time, get to December of 2021. Yes, this is where the story does end. Get to December of 2021. I am out sick with COVID. I'm not at work. I get a phone call from my coworker telling me that Legion has called our job looking for me and was trying to get information on how to reach me. Yes, I had already changed my number. Again, I had already moved, but he knew where I worked. So apparently he had called trying to find me, and the person that answered the phone was like, we're not going to give you that information. So he said, well, can you ask her to give me a call? I'm just trying to get a hold of her so I can get my stuff. The stuff he's talking about are those tote bags from July. So he was calling. And it was a problem. He was trying to reach out to me on Facebook. He was trying to reach out to family members on Facebook, trying to get me to call him so that he could make arrangements to come get his stuff. The devil is a lie. So my friend Tracy, who came to my rescue again, my friend Tracy was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. She said, you're going to send him a message and you are going to say these exact words. I sent him a text message. She said, and she told me, you're going to send a text message because it's going to be time-stamped. And basically the text message says, I do not have your stuff. I did not have your stuff. I have nothing that belongs to you. If you continue you are disrupting the work of my job by calling and asking for me. We have no contact with each other. I will send you a copy of the divorce decree that shows whatever is in your possession you own and whatever is in my possession I own. If you contact me directly or indirectly ever again, I will get a restraining order on you. Now, for those of you who are watching this in 2024, and you're probably like, wow, she's dramatic. Please understand that what I just said, I meant. I mean that. If you ever try to contact me directly or indirectly, I will get a restraining order. I have it in writing. I've always had it in writing. And if I need to rewrite it again in 2024, I will, because the boundaries still stand. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last time I had any contact whatsoever with my pathologically lying ex husband. Part 50. Who the fuck did I marry? So, the aftermath. There are some realizations I had to come to after the divorce and everything had passed. One, Legion never loved me. He never loved me. He doesn't love himself, so I know he didn't love me. Number two, he didn't even like me. He watched me get excited about things that he knew I was not going to get. And not even just the possession stuff. Like, of course, we know I was excited to be the woman whose husband is like, I'm taking my wife to London. I was excited to be the woman whose husband was like, yeah, I bought my wife a brand new BMW X5. You have to understand, is all the jokes that we make about the BMW. It was the time and effort that he spent in taking me to dealerships and being sure to put me in the car and test drive the car, and oh, I can see you in this. I like this for you. It seems safe. It was the effort to really make me believe that he was going to get this, just for him to fuck with me. The effort in taking me to all these homes, to see my face light up as a woman who grew up on welfare, to be able to walk into these 4 and 5 bedroom homes, knowing that he didn't have any money to buy it. Imagine if he had just been honest and said, hey, I like in my free time to go to open houses and just see how the other people live. Imagine if he had just said that versus wasting not only my time, but the wasting the time of the realtors who did nothing wrong. There's a level of cruelty to my ex-husband that I had never experienced before. And God knows, I pray I never experience it again. That's the word that comes to mind when I think of him. He is cruel to, and it wasn't just me. He did it to the ex-wife. So, do I trust? No. No. I trust the people who were in my life before him. If we were friends or if we were in a relationship or whatever, and I knew you before him, I trust you explicitly. But if you're somebody I just met, I don't trust you. I don't. There's no point in me getting on here and saying and making it seem like, oh, I'm so strong, I'm so brave. I struggle big time. Because on one hand, I want to like someone. On the other hand, I'm immediately thinking, what if it's a repeat? And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I can't go through that again. I can't. Um, every single thing in our relationship was a lie. It took me a while to realize every single day this man lied to me. Every single day he lied to me. Every conversation he had was a lie. I will never know how much he lied to me. I'll never know. I've made my peace with it. I will never know how deep it really truly goes. I only know what I experienced, and I only know what God allowed me to see. But I'm willing to bet that there's a lot I still don't know. When people say, oh, you dodged a bullet, like and I've read a lot of the comments on this, and people have sent me a lot of the comments. And so I need to make one thing very clear. I am fully aware I dodged a bullet. I am so grateful to my God that I did not have that man's child. I'm sorry if that offends some of you, but it's the truth. I'm grateful that we didn't buy a house and that I'm not financially tied to him in any way, shape, or form. But I am also grateful for the fact that there are things about my ex-husband that I discovered in terms of how he is when it comes to other women. And I'm grateful that God has kept me and protected me. That's all I'm going to say. So when I started out making this series and I made the decision to tell my story, my motive was I just want to help one person. If there is a woman out there who's like, God, I want to be married and I met this guy and something don't seem right, but maybe it's not that bad. My advice is, honey, just go ahead and do your research, because I can honestly tell you, being single sucks. Okay. In my opinion, sometimes it sucks, but being married to the wrong person is a type of hell no one should have to go through. You should not have to be married to someone that does not like you. You should not have to be married to someone that doesn't even love you. And I know what that is like. I know what it's like to be told, hey, babe, I love you. And yet, I swear, I think that man sat back in the recliner with his WWE Championship Roman Reigns belt and laughed his ass off at me every day. Like, damn, she really believed it. Ha, 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 ha. I do. I really do think that. My radar was broken because I am an intelligent woman and I know that I know better. And I still sometimes ask myself, how the fuck did you let this happen? How did you let this be your story? All because at the time I wanted it to be my turn. And I hoped it was my turn. And when people say, well, what do you mean by that? I just meant we all see it, whether it's social media or real life. We all see where the woman she done been through some stuff, but she finally met someone who appreciates, loves, and respects her. And it is a beautiful thing. I had hoped that when I met him, it was my turn for that. And instead of being obedient, I wanted to be right and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And the cost of that decision was heavy. The toll of reliving this whole scenario was heavy. It was. I'm almost surprised at how hard it was to actually finish this playlist. Not because I couldn't remember stuff. I probably remember way more details than what I actually put out. But it's just the fact that it's like I'm reminding myself, how did you let this happen? So, therapy is real. Therapy helps. Stella Rosa Black helps too. And yes, I will one day get to London. I will get my dark blue BMW X5 with a cognac interior. I believe I will get those things. Just got to get them a different route. So, thank you all for being on the playlist of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? I promise I will go live and I will let you all know when I go live so that we can have a wine night full of question and answers. Thank you for watching.